We're going to cover how to sharpen your knives using the Smith Tri-Hone stone, which is actually a pretty nice feature to use. This side I've got the fine, I've got the medium stone on this side, I've got the coarse on this side. Now with this knife, it needs a little bit of work but not too much, so I'm just going to stay with the fine side of the stone here. I'm going to put some oil on the stone to get it nice and wet. Go ahead and get that worked in. There we go. Now what's really nice about this too is that it comes with this little guide here, and the guide is actually a 23-degree angle. It's what's called a sharpening guide. You can put it all on your stone and it'll give you that little reference point to use. So I'm just going to go nice and even. I'm going to do probably 10 on this side and 10 on the other. And as I'm going forward, I'm also twisting to make sure that I'm able to get the entire blade at one time, so I don't have to go back and do it a second time. Alright, go ahead and flip it around. Now I'm going to do the other side. Alright, now I'm going to wipe off some of the excess oil. Fill my blade, and it does feel like it could use the stone or the steel. So I'm just going to run it on the steel a couple of times. Now the thing about this, when you use the steel, you do still want to maintain that angle. And go ahead and check it out. I could use a little bit more. This knife's really taken a beating over the years too. Looking at my stone, it's looking a little dry, so I'm going to put a little bit more oil on. Now you don't always have to go in the same direction too. You can turn it around as you go, but make sure you do even strokes each time you do this too. But my preference is I do like to go, say, 10 times on the right side and then 10 times on the left side. Or you can just go straight in this motion if you want to just go ahead and focus on that main portion of the blade. But again, it's extra work, and I find it's a little bit easier to go ahead and maintain that little twist as you go. And as you practice, you'll find that this gets a little bit easier right before any of the big game seasons. It's always a good time to sharpen your knives and make sure everything's fine-tuned, you know, and this is part of the fine-tuning that you want to do before you get out in the field. You don't want to get an elk or a deer down and then find out you got a dull blade. That definitely makes it a little bit longer for you. Go ahead and wipe off some of that excess oil again. Go ahead and run it. Now there's two different motions that you could do. You could go away from you and then towards you, or you could go away from you each time. But me personally, I like to play around with it sometimes. Alright, let's go ahead and run it on here a couple more times. Now when you look at your blade too, you want to go ahead and inspect and see if there's any chips or chunks that are taken out. And if they do have any chunks that are taken out, that's where you really want to start focusing on that coarse portion of the stone. That'll take out a lot of the nicks and deep gouges that we can get in our knives. But I like these steels too. These steels I'll carry in my pack with me while I'm hunting. I don't usually carry this when I'm trapping, but when I go out hunting, I always have a steel with me. Alright, and that's about there. So now we're about ready on this one to go ahead and put the finishing touches on. Another way you can test it too is see if you can shave with it. Took off a couple of hairs on that one. Now if you take a look at the stone too, you can see that it's actually starting to dry out. That's why you do want to go ahead and keep applying your oil. I use the honing stone oil or the honing solution. I've heard of people using all sorts of stuff on these, a combination of motor oil to transmission fluid to even bar oil for a chainsaw. But for me, I like to use the honing oil. It's a little bit cleaner, and you know, that's what's recommended with this stone. So I'm going to go ahead and run this on here a couple of more times again. Sometimes you do need to keep adjusting this angle guide also. Or if you wanted to change it up, you could go ahead and put your angle guide back over here. And do it towards you. I'm not a big fan of that method, but it is a different angle that you could take. You know, but again, it depends on your personal preference and your little technique that you come up with as you go. Now keep in mind when you're doing this, you want to make it a nice even cutting motion as you're twisting your wrist. Nothing overly aggressive, but don't get a little stingy with it either. You know, you want to make sure that you get it nice and sharp. Alright, so after you've done 10 and 10, go ahead and run it on the steel again. And go ahead and test it. Yeah, that's feeling really good. Go ahead and do the shaving test again. You know what? I think we're good with the stone to the point now where I can just do the finishing from here on out on this steel. There we go. Alright, now to clean up from this portion, very simple. Just go ahead and take your towel and go ahead and wipe off the oil from the stone. Go ahead and take this off of here.